Pope Leo XIV. Old comments from the new Pope are alarming LGBTQ plus Catholics. Let's get into this one. New Pope appointed earlier this week, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, now known as Pope Leo XIV. He is the first Pope from the United States. Chicago, to be exact, home of deep dish pizza, hot dogs, the Cubs. Overall, the internet is unsure about how to feel about this new Pope. And the internet always wins. As with any person who freshly enters the spotlight, past comments have now surfaced. LGBT plus Q plus Catholics concerned about hostile remarks made over a decade ago by Pope Leo XIV. Those comments, he condemned what he called the, quote, homosexual lifestyle and the redefinition of marriage at odds with the gospel. Here are the details. 2012, in an address to the world, synod of bishops, the man who now leads the church said that Western mass media is extraordinarily effective in fostering within the general public enormous sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with the gospel. For example, abortion, homosexual lifestyle, euthanasia. The remarks he made for the Catholic News Service, there's this. Pope Leo XIV blamed mass media for fostering so much sympathy for anti-Christian lifestyle choices that when people hear the Christian message, it often inevitably seems ideological and emotionally cruel. From The Guardian. Went on to complain that alternative families comprised of same-sex partners and their adopted children are so benignly and sympathetically portrayed in television programs and cinema today. Cleric also called for a new evangelization to counter these mass media-produced distortions of religious and ethical reality. After these comments surfaced, American LGBTQ plus Catholic groups expressed major concern here, especially after Pope Francis was regarded as clearly a progressive. Francis is remembered for his acts of humility, inclusion, such as washing the feet of migrant refugees, including Muslims, Hindus, others, voicing support for a greater role for women in the church. Former Pope Francis was openly critical of laws criminalizing LGBTQ plus people, calling them, quote, unjust. Francis is perhaps most remembered for his stance on LGBTQ plus Catholics. If a person is gay and seeks God and has goodwill, who am I to judge? Francis said in a striking 2013 statement. Francis was also a prominent voice in the call for global peace, using his last message at Easter Mass to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. But some Catholics are hopeful that he has potentially, Pope Leo XIV, changed his views over the past decade. Francis DiBernardo, the executive director of New Ways Ministry, Maryland-based LGBTQ plus Catholic group, stated this: we pray that in the 13 years that have passed, 12 of which were under the papacy of Pope Francis, that his heart and mind have developed more progressively on LGBTQ plus issues. And we will take a wait and see attitude to see if that has happened. All of this is leaving the internet very conflicted. Additionally, some right-wingers are upset. Right-wing extremist influencer. I don't know why she can't just go away. Laura Loomer's back. Woke Marxist Pope. So profound. I don't want to silence her, but I don't necessarily want to hear her. You understand, Tehran? She has a right to say and put out on social media whatever she wants. She's actually just a footnote to this story. What do we make of the future Pope and those statements 13 years ago? We know the history of this church. We know the transgressions of the church, other issues that they're still working through. But Pope Francis promoted this Pope, was close to this Pope. Should that give us hope? I guess your initial assessment.
Well, in regards to Laura Loomer's statement, woke Marxist Pope, I do find it concerning what she would have thought of Jesus. She would have been woke Marxist Jesus.
That's right.
I'm sorry, Laura. Have you actually ever read the Bible? Not just watched the memes and or a TikTok about it, but actually read the Bible. You'll find a lot of quote unquote woke and a lot of quote unquote Marxist theories, and that's how it should probably be when it comes to religion, since religion is usually about love, tolerance, understanding,
That
and
part.
community. Now, going to the idea of having Leo the 14th as our Pope, for anyone who is Catholic, I am not. I would say this is that having an American Pope means that Trump is going to be taking credit for this at any moment. I am waiting for Trump to be like, we wouldn't have had a Pope who's American if it wasn't for me. I mean, it's the best Pope. He called every Pope has called me. They told me America's the best. He'll say something to that effect. Yeah. As far as the Pope making these controversial statements 13 years ago, they're not that controversial when it comes to the Catholic religion. It's a religion of conservatism. The church has had a stance until recently that has been anti-LGBTQIA, and hopefully this Pope has learned in those 13 years, has grown, and has become much more aware of the concept of salvation as it pertains to the soul, and that's why they were elevated to the position of Pope. If Pope Francis was on board, and that was a very progressive Pope when it comes to history, hopefully this Pope, Leo the 14th, will be very similar and one and the same.
Yeah, it was just weeks ago. We know that he tweeted in reaction and chastised the American Vice President J.D. Vance, and he talked about love. And we know that Pope Francis, a short time before his death, put out the word to the cardinals. You're to fight all of this cruelty that the Trump administration is doing. You're to speak out against it, all of it. That's what you must do. So I want to think that this guy who the media is having a field day with about baseball and pizza and Chicago. I do think this, though. I will tell you that your comment that Trump will take credit for us having the first American Pope, I think he should take credit for it, because I was thinking that they were, meeting in secret and talking about things about, we need somebody who's going to speak out about the stuff that's going on over there. And this guy who's occupying this space on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I really think that, I'm not saying it's political, and I hate when people, political. It's not political to speak out. It's not woke to speak out against cruelty. Snatching a woman off the street who her crime was she wrote in the student paper about the war in Gaza and children. That's a crime. She's now in Louisiana having to speak remotely at her hearing. So I want to believe that it all is coming together. I'm not Catholic, but I found it interesting. I'll give you the last word, what his brothers said about him. They said he was their younger brother, I think, and they were rough and tumbling and raising you know what. And they would tease him saying, you're just a goody two shoes. You wouldn't want to be the Pope one day. And look at that, okay? If your brother's the Pope, do you give out as many tickets as you want behind the scenes to the Vatican, or are you more respectful? What do you do, Tehran?
Well, when your brother's a Pope, hopefully it gives you a pass into a lot of things, but I promise you that probably means that there's more scrutiny and that you should be a better person. It's nice to know that this is a person or a Pope that's basically an actual regular person. This isn't a billionaire Pope who tries to pretend that they are a regular person. This is a regular person who's now become a billionaire Pope because he is the religious leader to 1.5 billion people. Which America is he from? That is yet remain to be seen. And that is what we're hopeful, that it's the America that's on the right side of history and not the current injustice, intolerant America that the world has been shown for the last couple months.
Well, perhaps he is built to be a bit of a shield and somebody who will stand up, speak religious truth to
some
power.
Good people from Chicago, some good
That's
people
right.
from Chicago.
I went to school there. That pizza,
that's
just incredible.
Last good leader, Chicago.
That's right. That's right.